What if I told you that Alberta didn't just lose momentum in its independence, it may have missed the single biggest strategic opportunity in its history? Not because the idea was weak, not because the people weren't ready, but because the execution failed. This is not just about a court ruling. This is about what went wrong, what could have been, and what must change if Alberta ever tries again. In recent developments, the Court of King's Bench of Alberta intervened, halting the certification of a petition tied to Alberta's independence movement. Groups like the Alberta Prosperity Project and Stay Free Alberta had built momentum. The United Conservative Party government, led by Danielle Smith, had created the political environment for this push. But then, everything slowed down. Legal challenges, Indigenous opposition, public division. So the question is, if this entire effort was a sprint, what lessons were learned? And more importantly, what should have been done differently? Let's be clear. This was the biggest mistake. Under Section 35 of the Constitution Act, 1982, Indigenous rights are not symbolic, they are constitutional law. And Alberta sits on land governed by Treaty 6, Treaty 7, and Treaty 8. These are not historical footnotes, they are living agreements. Now imagine a different scenario. Imagine if before a single petition was signed, or before a law was amended, the chiefs, the councils, the nations themselves were brought to the table. Not as obstacles, but as partners. Imagine if the College of Chiefs stood beside the movement and said, "We have been consulted. Our rights are recognized. Our future is part of this vision." Do you understand what that would have done? Ottawa would have been cornered. The legal challenges neutralized. The moral argument strengthened. The legitimacy unshakable. Lesson: consultation is not optional. It is the foundation. This movement ran into the courts because it tried to win politically before securing victory legally. That is a fatal mistake in Canada. Because here's the truth. In this country, constitutional battles are won in courtrooms before they are won at the ballot box. What should have happened? Constitutional experts engaged from day one, legal challenges anticipated, not reacted to, and court references sought before public mobilization. Instead, opponents controlled the timeline. And when your opponent controls the timeline, they control the outcome. Lesson: you don't mobilize first and defend later. You fortify first, then mobilize. Now let's talk about something deeply important. Something that cuts right to the core. You cannot build a movement by pushing people away. Alberta is not just one kind of people. It is the Filipino communities, the Indian and Sikh communities, African and Caribbean communities, Chinese, the Middle Eastern communities, the European settlers, and of course the Indigenous nations. These are not outsiders. These are Albertans. Now imagine this instead. Every household receives a letter or text. Clear, direct, reassuring. We are building something new, and you are part of it. Your status is protected. Your contribution is recognized. Your future is secure. Not fear, not exclusion, inclusion. Because here's the reality. People do not vote against their families. They do not vote against their own future. If immigrants feel threatened, they will reject the movement no matter how strong the economic argument is. Lesson: inclusion is not kindness. It is strategy. This part is uncomfortable but necessary. The government cannot promote growth and then blame that growth for system failure. The United Conservative Party encouraged population expansion, but infrastructure didn't keep up. Healthcare strained, schools overcrowded, public services stretched thin, and instead of owning that, there was deflection. But here's the problem. You cannot ask people to trust you with a new country when they are losing confidence in how you run the current one. What should have happened? Fix healthcare, strengthen education, stabilize services, then say, "We've proven we can govern. Now we want more." Lesson: competence builds credibility, not rhetoric. Now let's paint the picture of what could have happened. Imagine this: First Nations leaders at the forefront, immigrant communities mobilized and reassured, faith groups informed and engaged, workers, professionals, and families aligned. A movement that says, "We are building a future where everyone belongs." Recruitment messaging: we need soldiers, we need border officers, we need civil servants, we need builders. All hands on deck. Now think about this. If that coalition had been built, if consultation had been done, if inclusion had been real, then Ottawa would have had very little room to maneuver. Because the strongest force in politics is not protest. It is consensus. Lesson: the real power is not in division, it is in alignment. So where does this leave us? This moment, this court decision is not the end of the conversation. It is a mirror, a reflection of what happens when law is underestimated, people are excluded, strategy is rushed, responsibility is avoided. But it is also an opportunity, because if Alberta ever revisits this path or stay this course, the blueprint is now clear. Consult before acting, include before mobilizing, govern before promising, unite before dividing, because in the end, this is not just about independence. It is about responsibility. It is about recognizing a simple truth. Your rights do not exist in isolation. They exist alongside the rights of others. And any future built on that understanding will not just be stronger. It will be unstoppable. If you found this breakdown valuable, subscribe, share, and join the conversation. Because the future of Alberta is still being written. And the next chapter will depend on whether these lessons are learned. I will see you in the next video.